introducing her.
Oh, your boy, you sound real confused.
Yeah.
You are still not on the program, right?
No.
You are.
Who not on the program? Me?
No, like you.
Assalamu alaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. I am privileged to be able to introduce our next speaker because I not only know her personally, I've known her since she was a child, and she's really been almost like she was my child. But when you think about our next speaker, she is truly an educator. She wanted to be a scientist, but Allah already had destined her to be able to teach because it was in her. You know, she has many degrees. You know, I think it's kind of a family tradition to get more than one. But, you know, when you're in an atmosphere, you know, where you have people in your family doing a thing, you tend to pattern after family members. But she is a person who's really deep in thought, reflection, and she loves family. She loves people. And we all love her. She has recently attended the Leadership Institute and obtained those wonderful skills, and she loves its dean like no other. She is compassionate with all of her brothers and sisters, and I am so honored to have at one time taught her myself. I want to introduce you to none other than Miss Kimberly Spate.
Well, I didn't know who you were talking about. Assalamualaikum. Ramadan Mubarak. It's always exciting when your former teachers get a chance to say something about you, and then you get to find out what they really think. And you just pray that it's not terrible. So we're going to get started today. Inshallah, everything that I say is in alignment with our Creator, and I pray that my message comes across properly. Our topic for the Sisters Ramadan session is read what Allah has written, seeking progress through love. And I understand that this topic is directly aligned to our topic for Muslims in Memphis this year. So it's kind of exciting that it would be such, and to see how we can all play off of this particular thing. So A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Allah is so merciful, and I'm so grateful that this past Jummah, I was not physically here, but I was listening in on Facebook, like a lot for technology. We listened to the Jummah, and I heard the Khatib addressing the thing. And so as I was listening to the things that he was saying about the thing, I was saying, oh, seeking progress through love, light, opportunity, vision, and eradicating crime. I was moved because most of the things that he was saying, I was like, that's setting the foundation for everything that I'm talking about. We don't even need to have Sister from our session. We could just play Juma and for my session, and then I say, yeah, I stamped that. That's excellent. So, but if you did hear the Juma, you're primed and you're ready for our presentation for today. And you'll hear some of the things in our beginning part that kind of connect to what was taught on Friday. So, in talking about seeking progress through love, one of the things that I heard in Juma was the statement, the greatest human right is the right to be human. And that was very significant because we're talking about eradicating crime in the month of the theme for the month, and that is something that would highlight itself as a human right, a right to live in peace, a right to be able to move around the world without being concerned for your safety. So when looking at what human means, I looked up the human. And it comes from the Latin root word homo, meaning man or human being. And it goes on to humanus, the old French word humane, so you've heard of being humane. And then you get Middle English, the same, and going to human. But human was first recorded in the mid-century, the mid-13th century, and owes its existence to the French humane, of or belonging to man. And in turn then comes from the humanus, the Latin. But it is thought to be a hybrid relative of the word homo, meaning man, and humus, meaning earth. And that's very significant, and I hear the because what is mankind made from? The earth, clay, right? In Quran Surah 71, Ayah 17, it says, and Allah has caused you to grow from the earth a progressive growth like a plant. And that's significant because when we talk about the growth of a plant, what do we know about a plant? It grows down, firmly affixed, and then it grows up and out where you can see it, and then it produces its fruits, right? But it first has to anchor itself. So when you talk about mankind, and you talk about man, and coming from the earth, if you were liken man to a plant, you're thinking about those same characteristics. Being firmly planted and grounded, there's the ground again. Then growing up, and when you talk about growing up, we think of spirituality, but we also think of growing up towards the heavens, being more aligned to your Creator, and then after that, bearing fruits. And it does not happen in an opposite way. You don't bear fruits before you firmly plant yourself, ground yourself, and then grow up in spirituality. And so it's very significant that not only do we see that in the Quran, but even the language of the choice of the word that we use today to describe the human being. So when we're talking about the human, and we're talking about progressing, what is the true human nature? And if you study philosophy over time, you will find that human nature has been debated and thought about for centuries. This is not a new concept. It wasn't a concept that came along with just Al-Islam. But the concept of what is the nature of man has always been a discussion piece, right? So if you know anything about Greek and Roman philosophies, Chinese philosophies, it all has a thought process around what is the true nature of mankind, of man. So Plato and Aristotle, they were kind of similar in their thoughts. They said that the human soul has a nature that is divided specifically for humans. One part is rational, and it is divided into just that portion. And then another part has a spiritual component. And the second half of the human holds the desires or passions similar to those found in animals. So the desire to eat, the desire to sleep, the desire to mate, all of those things. They both distinguish very separately the spirited part of the human nature and the passionate part of the human nature. So they, at that point, were saying there is something different between the basic characteristics of maintaining the physical body and also having a spiritual component. They said, but the proper function of the rational component of the human is to rule the other parts of the soul, helped by the spirit. And by this account, the best way to live is to be a philosopher, a person of thought, and that's the highest level of human. That's Aristotle and Plato. Very interesting. Then Aristotle goes a little bit further, leaves Plato behind and says, hey, what makes us different from these animals, yeah, we got this spirit, but it's the ability for us to reason and use our language in our soul and our psyche. And that means that the work of the human is actually actualization of our soul in accordance to reason. So he's identifying having a soul and being a reasonable human being. So got some progression there, right? So based upon this, his followers came up with their own ideas. And we've heard about after people are gone, how they come up with something a little different, or even take it a little further and say this is from Aristotle. But his followers said, okay, hey, that means there's a rational animal. That's what we're going to call this. We're going to call the human the rational animal. That makes it different from just being an animal. It's a rational animal. And as a rational animal, it's going to have a conjugal animal component. That means that, you know, when you become an adult, you're going to want to couple, marry, mate. That's one component. And then you're going to run a household, and it's going to be run by the patriarchal component of you, the males in the family. Then you're going to attach to villages and cities, which are a little more self-sufficient, and then you're going to become a political animal. And a political animal has more complex communities, more like instead of a male-dominated household, now you have several households working together in a city. And then you're going to have lawmaking and division of labor. What does it sound like is happening now? So then from this, you're going to have reason to be able to run this, and it shouldn't just be run by a patriarch like a village. You need the whole family. This is Aristotle. So man then also becomes a mimetic animal. That's the next part, where they love to use their imagination and recreate what they see in nature and use it in their everyday life. How does that connect with what we're taught about Islam so far? Does anybody have an idea of what you want to holler out? Something that they hear? Do you hear anything that's relevant to community life in Islam?
To building it up to where we're self-sufficient.
Okay, because it does say having, that we got to the point of cities and having community life. What else did we have?
Sure.
We had shura because it wasn't just run by the male of the household. You had several working together, and they made what to keep order? Laws. And it said in order to have these laws, you had to have reason.
Right.
And then it said, okay, we don't just have laws and family. We also have this last component they said, which you use your imagination. That's an even higher level of use of your intellect to recreate what's in nature. And we've already been taught that Allah has put messages and signs in nature for us to read and use for our own development. So that was Aristotle. Left Plato behind. Plato didn't get that far. So now Aristotle then also says about human nature, it says, reason is not only what's special about humanity compared to others, but it's also what we're meant to achieve to be our best. So we have to have reasoning to be the best human. And then he describes human nature as we're meant to be and we're intended to be this rational human being. What's interesting is when I read that, it said the portion of this thought process is where we're saying humans are meant or intended to be something is less popular today in modern times. So I think talks about progression, but this concept says Aristotle, who's way before Quran, this Quran, not the message of Allah, but this Quran. He's way before this, and he's saying that human beings are meant are designed to be rational. In order to really be the best level of human being, then you have to have that component. You have to have a purpose and achieve it. You're looking for self-actualization. But it also stated in the research that that concept is not popular today, that humans are meant to achieve, that humans are meant to self-actualize. So my question to you is just to think about, why do you think that is? Why do you think that today the idea of humans being intellectual, rational, and having a purpose to self-actualize is not something that is promoted today? Going back to the thing where we're talking about seeking progress, we're talking about moving forward, but to me that sounds like society is doing what? Moving backwards. Okay. So Aristotle says there are 4 aspects there. All in living things exhibit matter. They exhibit a form. They have some effect on their surroundings. And there's an end, there's an actualization end. There's a goal here. And so just talking about a basic living thing, an oak tree is made up of plant cells, right? You see the leaves, the stalk, all of that. That's its matter. It forms into a tall tree that has all those components. That's its form. That's what it looks like. Its effect is that it starts as an acorn and it's going to grow into this tree. That's how it functions on the environment. And then its end is it becomes a mature tree that then provides resources to the environment. It has a self-actualization. It doesn't not get to that point unless something is damaging to it. In its natural state, it will continue to grow stage by stage until it gets to the point where it is a resource for the environment. It's going to provide shelter for some organisms. It's going to provide us shade. It might provide us food. It could provide us, we could chop it down and have furniture, paper. So it becomes a resource for us, right? According to Aristotle, the human nature is our form, not the physical form. The nature of the human is our form. Is to become fully actualized. In order to become fully actualized as a human being, you have to fully actualize the mind. Isn't that something? Mm-hmm. So he says that the most significant part of the human psyche should be cultivated above all else. The cultivation of learning and intellectual growth of a philosopher is therefore the happiest and least painful life. So how can the lack of learning and intellectual growth be painful? Chaos. Yeah. I thought it was very significant that the theme for the month was so specific. Seeking progress through love, light, opportunity, vision, which are all concepts, but then the last one was eradicating crime. And when I saw the last part, I was like, man, we must really be in a situation where we have all these broad concepts that we want to align ourselves to, but we're ending it with eradicating crime. Like, what is going on when your thing is broad and then the narrow part is we got to fight something that is, and not just bring down crime or influence crime, eradicate it. So when we talk about how the lack of learning and intellectual growth can be painful, I think that we're seeing that in its effect on a very strong end, because we're talking about eradicating crime, which is very, very, that was jarring for me to hear. So now I want you to listen to this second component. We talked about Greek and Roman philosophers, Aristotle and Plato, but the Chinese view of human nature is also very interesting. So Confucianism says that there's potential and innate goodness in human beings. So they just believe in the goodness. Masjid says human nature is the tendency to an ideal state that is expected to be formed under the right conditions. So basically, the natural progression is that if you do it right, you're going to reach self-actualization. So you have the capacity to be good. You're not all good, but goodness is the result of work. And that work is trying to get the virtues of benevolence, righteousness, wisdom, and propriety. If you put you in the right environment, you will become these things. That's what that particular philosopher says. And if you reflect on that often enough, then you will develop virtues. So there's work involved here. Virtues takes precedence over satisfaction. So then human nature will want to be more virtuous. We will want to be more virtuous than to just tend to our own individual immediate needs. That's the nature of a human, according to this philosopher. And if you become bad, if your nature is bad, it's not because of your constitution to be bad. Rather, it's because you have been put in situations and emotional trauma that injured your progression. So something got in the way of you developing into and being able to do the work of being a good human being. So we're going to start to take a turn. Sun Tzu says, this particular philosopher understands human nature as the basic faculties, capacities, and desires that people have from birth. Whatever it is you're born with, that's it. Okay, it doesn't matter what you do, this is your nature. Okay, you cannot fight nature. And he says that human nature is evil and that any goodness is the result of human activity. And it is human nature to seek profit because humans desire for sensory satisfaction, and that the nature of man is evil and it must depend on teachers and laws to become correct and achieve propriety and righteousness, and then only then does it become discipline. What does that align with? So you're born then in a state of evil. You are inherently bad, and you have to be beat into some type of confirmation to become good. I have to teach you how to be good, because if I allow you to depend on your own nature, you will not be. So I want you to think about, if you have that philosophy about a human being, what it is that your expectations are for human beings. They're inherently evil. So you don't expect anything but that from a person. And so because that's your expectation, then you're going to build things to either support that for your own benefit, take advantage of that, or you're going to have to be so rigid because you believe that the only way to make a person good is to have strict laws and a teacher that is firm, and I'm going to force you into good behavior. And what does that sound like? It's a great philosophy to underline slavery. So here's the last one. And you may have heard this before and did not know it was a philosophy. Legalism. Legalism is a Chinese philosophy. And legalism says selfishness in human nature cannot be eliminated or altered by education or self-cultivation. I can beat you, I can teach you, you are still going to be selfish and evil. People cannot overcome their selfishness. It's exceptionally rare that people can be driven by moral commitment. Legalists do not see individual morality of the rulers or the rules. as an important concern in the political system. Listen, we're not concerned about the leaders' morality or the people of the township's morality when it comes to the legal system. That's not what's important, whether you're moral or not, whether you're good or not, whether or not you do the right thing or not. That is not important. Instead, what is important are clear and impersonal norms such as laws, regulations, and rules on the basis to maintain order. I know you're going to be evil and bad. I know you're going to take advantage. I just need some things. We're going to agree that these are the things that you can go as far as you want to, but just don't cross this line. And not as you want, because you're incapable of not doing it. So if you do it, I know that you're going to do it. It's okay, because that's your nature. But once you get to this point here, there are going to be consequences. People are all motivated by their unchanging selfish core to want whatever advantage they can gain from whoever they can gain such advantage, which especially comes to expression in situations where people can act with impunity. Who does that sound like? But this is a philosophy. I want you to understand it. This is a philosophy, and there are people that subscribe to this. I can do whatever I want to as long as I don't cross this line. And if I cross this line, it's really okay. I just have to deal with the consequences of what was put in place for that line. If I'm willing to deal with the consequences, it's still okay. So if it's a fine of $10 million if I do this, okay. It's not, but I'm not a bad person. Not any different than all the rest of us. I'm a human nature. It's okay. So what happens to society when we're perceived to be naturally evil? Normalized evil. I saw a hand back there.
I said it becomes evil.
It becomes evil. The society then will reflect what the expectations are. As parents, I think I'm looking around, I think most of us are parents, aunties, something with some kids. If you raise the expectations, they will rise to the occasion. If you have no expectations, they will do whatever they want to do because you haven't said anything. So if the environment's expectation is that you can do whatever and you will do it without any type of ramifications, then why not? And you hear people say they speak with no remorse.
Yes.
You killed this many people.
Yes.
Why?
Okay.
They got in my way. I mean,
Driving too slow.
is there anything wrong with that? I solved the problem. The problem was they were in my way. I removed the problem. Why don't you understand? Legalists believe that human selfishness can be an asset rather than a threat to a state. In legalism, the government cannot be staffed by upright and trustworthy men of service because every member of the elite, like any member of society, will pursue their own interests and thus must be employed for their interests. I didn't hire you because you would do the right thing. I hired you because I know what you want, and you can give me what I want, and I can give you what you want. So I'm going to, I understand your interests, and your interests benefit my interests, so that's why you're here at the table. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Okay. Herein, individuals must be allowed to pursue their selfish interests exclusively in a manner that benefits rather than contradicts the needs of a state. Therefore, a political system that presupposes this human selfishness is the only viable system. In contrast, a political system based on trust and respect rather than these impersonal norms and standards brings great concern in regard to an ongoing and irresolvable power struggle. See, if everybody's getting what they want, nobody's trying to remove anyone. Everybody's happy. I can get what I want, you can get what you want. I know what you want, you know what I want. Let's make this happen. Now, the fact that you are over there killing people and abusing children, all that, we're going to just, can you just not do that right here while we're handling business? Because we're gonna excuse this other stuff because nobody's good, and we know that you have a human disposition to be a pedophile. So we're gonna just overlook that. What I need is for you to be able to provide this for me, and I'm gonna provide this for you. That's what's important here. The other stuff is not. That's why you can see the corruption and wonder, is this the leader of the? Can this person? Absolutely. This person is great for the position, according to legalism. So rather, checks and controls must be put in place to limit the subversion of the system by its actors. So we got to keep actors. We got to keep all this going. We can't have you in here talking about what's good and great and holy and right, because now you're about to mess up the system that's working for everybody. So we use reward and punishment as effective political control. And it's in human nature to have likes and dislikes. So once I know what your likes and dislikes are, I can do reward and punishment. I know what you like, so I'm going to give you that when you do what I need you to do. I know what you don't like, so I'm going to give you that when you don't do what I need you to do. Okay? So, according to this particular statement, Shane Yang, it is crucial to investigate the disposition of people in terms of rewards and penalties when a law is established. I'm going to learn the people, and I'm going to find out what is important to them. And then I'm going to establish laws that will reward and punish you based upon what you like and don't like. And then I can get what I want, and you can get what you want. That is a Chinese philosophy. Did you know that you are living in a non-Chinese place that is owned by China? And you are following their thoughts of the system. And what kind of system do we have? Legal system. From what? Legalism. There you go. Human nature. So now we've talked about all these different concepts of what people view as human nature. But what's most important is what Allah says about human nature. And so we're going to speak about the human nature, the